Women of Reddit, what was the smoothest way you were asked out? I was at a party with a friend of mine when this guy comes over with a deck of cards. He insisted on showing my friend his party trick and proceeded to have her choose a card at random. She grabbed the card and kept its identity to herself, and he placed it back in the deck and shuffled it. He started laying down cards and ended when he reached 10. He looked up at her and said, "Do you notice anything interesting about these cards I laid down?" She shook her head, and he then looks her directly in the eyes and says, "It's my number, call me." He then proceeded to give her an over-exaggerated wink, shot her some finger guns, and disappeared into the crowd of the party. At one of my old labs there was a job where you work with a partner who has to print numbers on these little plastic cases for you to put samples in. You're doing it for hours, so it gets really boring, but you've also got to concentrate, cause if you mix up the numbers then two patients could get each other's diagnosis and you could kill someone. The advantage of this job is that you can basically talk to the person you're working with for hours, because eventually you start doing the checking subconsciously, sort of like driving and talking to someone at the same time. Anyway, I'd been getting close to this cute new guy for a few weeks, and we'd been hanging out all day just shooting the breeze at work. Right at the end of the day, as he's handing me one of these cases, my subconscious alarm goes off telling me the number on the case is wrong. This happens pretty often, hence why we're so paranoid checking, so I pick it up to hand it back to him and ask him to reprint it, when I realize it's his phone number he's printed on the case. Look up and see him smiling the most confident grin I've ever seen in my life. The little knew he had me then. Dr. got propositioned via laboratory consumable. Was powerless to resist. He literally ran after me. We had a class together and started talking about 2 weeks before it ended. I thought he was cute as hell but didn't think he felt the same way. He and his buddy lived the same way I did, and on the last day of class, they walked home with me but split paths after a few blocks. So I'm walking and kinda gushing to a friend via text about him and I hear someone running and it's him. He tells me that he'd be a massive idiot unless he gets my phone number because he thinks I'm super cute. We've been together for 3 years. Ugh, that was me, except I made it all the way back to the men's dorm. There was one girl in our group of friends, and we all came back from a night out. We were walking toward the dorms when the other guys started walking all fast. So I'm there walking with her, a woman I had been developing a major crush on over the past couple of months, I should add, and I'm like, well, I wouldn't just walk all fast and leave her alone. At least not while we're still on the sidewalk that leads to both of the dorms. I knew if I was a gentleman and walked her all the way to her dorm she'd know. So when the sidewalk split, I said, well, good night, and I proceeded to walk, like an idiot, back to the men's dorm, leaving her to walk by herself back to the women's dorm, when she had clearly wanted me walk her back. But she's my wife now, so it wasn't a complete disaster. Summer of sophomore year, there was an ice cream store I would go to religiously every other day. They had a huge selection of flavors that rotated frequently, and the guy that worked there could predict what I'd order because it'd always have to be whatever's new. It got to the point where I didn't even have to order. I'd just walk in and he'd have a cone ready for me by the time I reached the register. But we never really talked outside of ice cream orders. Finally, one day he says, "You really like ice cream?" Me, haha, yeah, I do. Him, do you also like pizza and a movie? Maybe, Saturday. Me, actually. My friend Naomi and I are going. Friend elbows me hard and conspicuously, not going anywhere. See you Sat. Him, cool. I'll see you here, usual time. Then he gave my friend double scoop on the house. One Saturday morning there was a knock on my door. I opened it and there was a young guy my age with a construction vest in. He stared at me for a couple seconds and I said, "Can I help you?" "Hello. We are doing some work on the pipes on this street." He was basically telling me I couldn't flush the toilet for a couple hours while they did the work. A couple hours later, they were done and gone. I had to run some errands so I went to leave. Stuck in the door was a note asking me out. It was signed the guy who told you not to flush. Maybe not the smoothest, but one of the cutest ways I have been asked out. So you're knocking on doors pretty early and feeling tired and spaced out by those 10, 12 hours days you've been working all summer to pay for one more college semester. You knock on the last door and a woman your age answers in jammies and a t-shirt. She's got sleepy eyes and her hair's a little mussed, but she's lovely. Whoa. What was I? Oh yeah, toilets. Damn, I feel like a fool. He mumbles his prepared speech and turns to go. Say something, say something. He looks down at his orange vest, dirty jeans, and work boots and keeps walking, but he can't get her out of his mind. Later, he gets a crumpled work order from his pocket and leaves a hasty note on her door, hoping he'll get an answer, but she never calls. Years later, he's a successful home builder. He sits alone at home in a huge empty house with all the lights on, sipping Laphroaig while some music plays quietly in the background. Someday she'll call. He pours another scotch. The phone rings. He thinks no way. It would be so weird if it was her. He picks the phone up, hesitates just a few seconds, and says hello. A nervous voice on the other end says, "Is this Stan?" "Yes, this is he. Can I help you?" Now he's really nervous because that voice is so familiar, yet he had only heard it once before when that young woman said, "Okay, thanks for telling me. Did you used to work for the city? Like the sewer department or whatever it's called?" "Yes, I did, about 15 years ago." "Why do you ask?" But he knew why she was asking. He knew. His heart was pounding in his chest at this point like it was that day 15 years ago. "I think you left a phone number for my twin sister, but she was too nervous to call you and never told me about it. I think she was afraid I'd call you, and I would have. She said you were cute and nice. That was long ago. On her deathbed she handed me this note, and I'm just calling you now to let you know she's dead, and honestly I'm very sorry because it won't be long now before the police show up and I have to go. Anyway, nice talking to you." When I was living in Boston there was a really cute guy who would play his guitar and sing in the stations along the Blue Line. I always gave him a few bucks because A, he was really cute, and B, he was really talented. He'd smile and call me the girl with the yellow roses. I have tattoos of yellow roses on my back, and then I'd get on the train and be gone. I was, still am, actually, in a long-term relationship, but I figured it was just harmless flirting. After about a month and a half of this I walked into one of the stations. I could hear someone playing ukulele. And then I heard, "Hey, girl with the yellow roses." So I looked around and saw him, sitting on the bench with a bouquet of yellow roses, and he started playing My Girl by the Temptations, on the uke. When he was done I walked over and he asked me out for coffee. It was so cute, albeit a little embarrassing because, crowded station, and if I had been single I would have said yes. But I didn't. He smiled and said, that figures. Have a great day, pretty girl." I just went through an ugly breakup when these happened, and these boosted my confidence when I really needed to still feel like I was an attractive person. I was on a bus in DC on my way to meet a friend at the Phillips Art Gallery, making myself go out and do new things. I met the gaze of this guy a couple of times, both of us one of the few not glued to our phones. I had put in quite a bit of effort into looking nice but still just felt awful and low. When I got off the bus it had started to pour. I was desperately trying to find something in my purse to cover my head when the same guy walked up and opened his umbrella over both of us, smiled, and asked, "How was your day?" I was at my coffee shop, you know it's yours when you frequent it often, and a guy sitting across from me asked me if I knew the Wi-Fi password. I told him the password and thought nothing of it. He was cute but I wasn't interested in starting a conversation, still feeling down. I got up to go get a sandwich and was kind of bummed when I came back and he was gone. I sat down and noticed a note on my keyboard that simply said, "You're distracting." with his name and number beneath it. That one was very flattering.